Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 10. Prahlad, the best amongst exalted devotees. Text number 15. That's all I'm going to read, but it goes until 17. Shri Paradu Vacha Varamvaraya Etat Te Varadeshan Maheshwaraya Yad Anindat Pita Me Tvam Avidvams Teja Aishvaram Shri Paradu Vacha Varamvaraya Etat Te Varadeshan Maheshwara Yad Anindat Pita Me Tvam Avidvams Teja Aishvaram Shri Paradu Vacha Varamvaraya Etat Te Varadesha Maheshwara Dindat Pita Me Tvam Avidvam Teja Aishvaryam Shri Paradu Vacha Varamvaraya Etat Te Varadeshan Maheshwara Yadadinat Pita Me Tvama Vidvam Seda Aishvaryam Shri Paradu Vacha. Prahlad Maharaj said, Varam, benediction. Varye, I pray. Etat, this. Te, from you. Varad, Ishat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who offers benedictions even to such exalted demigods as Brahma and Shiva. Maha Ishvara, O my Supreme Lord, Yat, that, Adinat, vilified, Pita, Father, Me, my, Tvam, you, Avidvam, without knowledge of, Teja, strength, Aishvaryam, supremacy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prahlad Maharaj said, O Supreme Lord, because you are so merciful to the fallen souls, I ask you for only one benediction. I know that my father at the time of his death had already been purified by your glance upon him, but because of his ignorance of your beautiful power and supremacy, he was unnecessarily angry at you, falsely thinking that you were the killer of his brother. Thus he directly blasphemed your lordship, the spiritual master of all living beings, and committed heavily sinful activities directed against me. Your devotee, I wish, against me, your devotee. I wish that he be excused for these sinful activities. Purport, although Hiranyakashipu was purified as soon as he came in contact with the Lord's lap and the Lord saw him, Prahlad Maharaj still wanted to hear from the Lord's own mouth that his father had been purified by me, by the Lord's causeless mercy. Prahlad Maharaj offered this prayer to the Lord for the sake of his father. As a Vaishnava son, despite of all the inconveniences imposed upon him by his father, he could not forget his father's affection. Very short purport, so this is going to be a reading day. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. I'll just read the translations and purports. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Prahlad, O most pure, O great saintly person, your father has been purified along with 21 forefathers in your family. Because you were born in this family, the entire dynasty has been purified." Purport: the word Tri Saptabhi means 7 multiplied by 3. In one family, one can count back 4 or 5 generations to one's great-grandfather, or even one's great-grandfather's father. But since the Lord mentioned 21 forefathers, this indicates that the benediction expands to other families also. Before the present family in which one has taken birth, one must have been born in other families. Thus, when a Vaishnava takes birth in a family, by the grace of the Lord, he purifies not only that family, but also the families of his previous births. Translation: whenever and wherever there are peaceful, equipoised devotees who are well-behaved and decorated with all good qualities, that place and the dynasties there, even if condemned, are purified. Purport: wherever exalted devotees stay, not only they and their dynasties, but the entire country is purified. My dear Prahlad, king of the Daityas, because of being attached to devotional service to me, my devotee does not distinguish between lower and higher living entities. In all respects, he is never jealous of anyone. Those who follow your example will naturally become my pure devotees. You are the best example of my devotee, and others should follow in your footsteps. Purport: in this connection, Srila Madhvacharya quotes a verse from the Skanda Purana. Rite tu tatvikan devan narada dims tataivacha paradad utama konu vishnu bhakto jagat traye. There are many devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they have been enumerated in the Srimad Bhagavatam as follows. Swayambhur Narada Sambhu Kumara Kapilo Manu Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Vailera Vyasakir Vayam. Of the 12 authorized devotees, Lord Brahma, Narada, Lord Shiva, Kapila, Manu, and so on, Prahlada is understood to be the best example. My dear child, your father has already been purified just by the touch of my body at the time of his death. Nonetheless, the duty of a son is to perform the Shraddha ritualistic ceremony after his father's death, so that his father may be promoted to a planetary system where he may become a good citizen and devotee. Purport: in this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, although Hiranyakashipu was already purified, he had to take birth on a higher planetary system to become a devotee again. Prahlad Maharaj was advised to perform the ritualistic ceremony as a matter of etiquette, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead under no circumstances wants to stop the regular principles. Madhva Muni also instructs, Madhu Kaitava Bhaktya Bhava Duro Bhagavato Mrito Tama Eva Kramat Apto Bhakti Ched Yo Harim Yayo. When the demons Madhu and Kaitava were killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their kinsmen also observed the ritualistic ceremonies so that these demons would return home back to Godhead. After performing the ritualistic ceremonies, take charge of your father's kingdom, sit upon the throne, and do not be disturbed by materialistic activities. Please keep your mind fixed upon me without transgressing the injunctions of the Vedas. As a matter of formality, you may perform your particular duties. Purport: when one becomes a devotee, he no longer has any duty to the Vedic regulated principles. One has many duties to perform, but if one becomes fully devoted to the Lord, he no longer has any such obligations. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.541, Devarshi bhutatman rinam pitrinam na kinkaro nayam rini chirajan sarvatma yaksharnam sharanyam kato mukundam pariritya kartam. One who is fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord is no longer a debtor to his forefathers, the great sages, human society, the common man, or any other living entity. Supreme Personality of Godhead nonetheless advised Prahlad Maharaj to follow the regular principles, for since he was going to be the king, others would follow his example. Thus Lord Nrsimhadev advised Prahlad Maharaj to engage in his political duties so that people would become the Lord's devotees. Yad yad acharya shrestas tad tad evetro janaha siyat pramanam kurute lokas tadunavartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. One should not be attached to any materialistic activities, but a devotee may perform such activities as an example to show the common man that one should not deviate from the Vedic injunctions. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Sarasvatundeve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Pasyatyade Satarane. Everyone has to accept a leader, as it says in the Mahabharata. Tarko apratishta shutiya vibina nasavari shir yasyana vinam. Dharma, that everyone, well, there's so many arguments. Just arguing becomes inconclusive. Tarko apratishta. Apratishta means unsteady. By arguments, there's always a chance of being defeated. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would argue with his devotees before he revealed himself as Krishna, as a great devotee of Krishna. He'd argue as a young scholar, and then he'd take the other side. After he defeated his devotees, then he'd take the other side and defeat them from the other point of view. And then he'd take the other side and defeat them again. So, Tarka Apratishta Shutiya Vibhina. And there are so many scriptures. There are 18 Puranas, 6 for those in the mode of ignorance, 6 for those in the mode of passion, and 6 for those in the mode of goodness. You can prove anything, practically speaking, from the scriptures. There's even a scripture, a Ramayana, in which Ravana is the hero of the Ramayana. Obviously, that's for people in the mode of ignorance. Tarko apratishta shutiya vibhina nasavari shir. And there are so many sages, and they have their point of view. Gautama, that the whole world is made out of atoms. Kanada, Jaimini, Patanjali. So there are so many different points of view how the world came about and how it exists. And they all refer to the Vedic literatures. But dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam, the actual knowledge of real religiosity is in the heart of a self-realized person. If one is free from material influence and at the same time fully conscious of Krishna, then one can understand everything properly. Otherwise, one will see everything from one's relative point of view. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhaya mahajano. So everyone chooses the Mahajan and follows them, knowingly or unknowingly. Everyone has their leader and is following their leader. As I mentioned before, in the conversation with Professor Katofsky, with Srila Prabhupada in Moscow, although Professor Katofsky could not accept our philosophy, either the eternality of the soul or even the Varna and Ashram system to elevate people to the mode of goodness, although he could not accept anything, Prabhupada's conclusion was that actually, ultimately, there's no difference between your philosophy and our philosophy. Because your philosophy says you have to accept a leader. You're accepting Lenin is your leader. And our philosophy also says we have to accept a leader, that we accept Krishna as our leader. The difference is you'll go wherever Lenin has gone, and we'll go wherever Krishna goes. That's the only difference. But accepting a leader is eternal principle. Now one can accept a leader in ignorance or in passion or in goodness or transcendental. That's our choice. But we have to accept someone and serve them, follow their instructions and example. Now, generally speaking, people choose the wrong leader. Matirna Krishna parataksatova vito bipadyeta grihavratanam adantago vira vishatam tamizram punak punas charvananam. Why? Because they're bound by the material concept of life. This is called grihavratanam. Griha means house. So the first house that everyone lives in is called a material body. And the idea is to make the body stout and strong, healthy, and we can live comfortably in this house. And then, in order to further our comfort, we get a family and try to make them happy, strong. And then we expand it to the community, to the city, to the country. We keep on expanding, but it's all based upon being comfortable in the body. And what is that comfort? Adantiko vir vishitam tamizram. A comfort is try to gratify the senses, make them passive, satisfied. But the more we try to gratify the senses, then the more we become uncomfortable. Although it's punak punas charvita charvananam, we're doing the same thing over and over again. This time, we think every time it's going to be different today. This time it's going to be blissful, although last time it had some happiness, but there were some problems too. Hite vidu swartagatim hi Vishnu. People don't know that the ultimate goal of life is to obtain Krishna. And they don't know who Krishna is. They don't know that Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure. He's the source of everything attractive. They think Krishna is just an ordinary person. Avajananti mamudha. They think when Krishna comes, his activities are just that of a powerful person, but nothing special. They don't know he's controlling every atom and the entire universe itself, that he's in everyone's heart. Therefore, because they don't know Krishna, therefore they choose something insignificant to achieve as some goal of life. To get rich or famous or live long or whatever the goal that they have. And what are they doing? They're andaya tandera bhagiyamanas tepisha tandra urudami bara. They've chosen some leader and they're following that leader, but because the leader is blind, the leader doesn't know that they themselves are eternal, and that everyone is eternal, and the goal of life is to go back to the spiritual world and live happily forever. Because they don't know that, therefore they're following blind leaders who are simply causing themselves and everyone else problems. So what's the solution? Naisham vatis tavadarukramangrim sprishat inarto bhagavan inarto mahiyasam pararuje vishekam iskinchananam nanavrita yadvat. One has to choose a leader who's self-realized, who's free from all material attachments, who's absorbed in the Krishna consciousness, and choose such a leader and follow their instructions and example so that one can actually become free from all material contamination and become fully conscious of Krishna. Therefore, Krishna himself comes, and just to set the example for others. Yadinaham navartayam jatu tishtan karmakrit karyateya vishat karma sarva prakriti janguna. Idinaham navartayam jatu karmanya tendritaha mama vartmanu vartante manushapartha sarvashaha. Nime partasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam vartavyam varta evich karmani. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O son of Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. Usideya me loka na karam karmachetaham sankarasya chakartasyam upahanya ima praja. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination, and I'd be the cause of creating unwanted population, and thereby destroy the peace of all living entities. So in other words, we can see among leaders, there's simply bigger versions of animals than the small little followers, as it says in the Bhagavatam. So Rahosra Karar, Samstuta Purusha Pashu, Niyat Karana Patiyo Peto, Jatu Nama Gada Graja. Men who are like hogs and dogs and camels and asses, they glorify the bigger hog, dog, camel, and ass, but they never glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's, people are caught up with this idea that maybe my leader, if they get in, there'll be any difference. But actually, there can't be any difference. Every leader is simply designated by the material nature, give the reactions to people's sinful activities, or maybe pious activities. But nowadays, sinful activities are much more prominent than pious activities. And therefore, all their leaders, they're all in the bodily concept of life, practically speaking. And therefore, there are simply hogs, dogs, camels, and asses who will act as an example for little hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, but there won't be any actual progress made in terms of spiritual awakening. Doesn't matter who gets elected, who's the leader. It's simply different versions of sense gratification that they're offering. Always to disappoint their followers, because practically speaking, in modern society, the leaders are a bunch of thieves. Or Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada said, there are two classes of people in Kali Yuga. There is the cheated and the cheated. Few people are expert at cheating, and everyone else is being cheated. And especially they're being cheated because they're working hard for nothing. They could be working hard and making spiritual advancement, and instead they're working like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, and getting the same result that a hog, dog, camel, and ass will get. But they won't understand who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is and how to get free from all problems of life by becoming Krishna conscious again. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, we'll stop there. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.